Hey everyone, it's 2026, and we're surrounded by incredible digital technology. We've got computers that can do almost anything, and when it comes to making music, the possibilities seem endless. But have you ever recorded something on your laptop, listened back, and thought something's missing? Sterile? If you've ever felt that way, you're not alone. Today, we're going to dive deep into why so many of us are turning back to gear like this old Tascam Portastudio, and why the inferior world of analog recording might actually be superior for capturing the soul of your music. Think about how digital audio works. It takes thousands of snapshots of a sound every single second. Even at incredibly high resolutions, what you're really capturing is a series of tiny, discrete steps. It's like building a curve out of microscopic Lego blocks. From a distance, it looks smooth, but up close, it's still a staircase. Now, compare that to analog tape. When you record on your Tascam, you're creating a continuous magnetic imprint on the tape. It's not a series of steps. It's a true, unbroken wave. It's a physical representation of the sound, with no gaps. This is what people mean when they describe analog sound as more liquid or connected. Your ear can perceive that fluidity, that seamless flow of energy, and it just feels more organic and real. Next, let's talk about the idea of perfection. Digital systems are built on math. They are precise, accurate, and perfectly clean. But is perfection what we really want in music? Think about it. That mathematical precision can often come across as cold or clinical. Have you ever heard of aliasing or jitter? These are tiny timing errors and artifacts that can happen during the digital conversion process. They can create a subtle, almost imperceptible harshness in the high frequencies that over time leads to listener fatigue. When you record a loud, punchy sound like a snare drum onto your Tascam, the tape naturally saturates. It rounds off the sharpest peaks in a really pleasing musical way. This is what engineers call tape glue. It helps all the elements of a track sit together nicely. Known as 0 decibels, it doesn't get rounded off. It just breaks. You get this awful, harsh digital clipping that sounds like a broken electronic toy. It's the sound of mathematical perfection failing, and it's not pretty. Analog's imperfections are what give it character and warmth. But the critique of digital isn't just about the sound. It's about how it affects our brains and our creative process. When you open up a digital audio workstation, like Ardor or Pro Tools, what's the first thing you do? You look at waveforms, you look at meter levels, you look at plug-in interfaces. You're staring at a screen. There's fascinating research suggesting that when our visual cortex is highly active, our auditory cortex, the part of our brain responsible for hearing, actually becomes less sensitive. In other words, you start mixing with your eyes instead of your ears. You're making decisions based on what a waveform looks like, not what the music actually sounds and feels like. And then there's the curse of infinite choice. Option paralysis. A digital environment gives you unlimited tracks, a million different plugins for EQ, compression, reverb, you name it. You spend hours tweaking a single kick drum sound. Before you know it, you've overprocessed the song to death. You've squeezed every last bit of life and spontaneity out of the original performance in the pursuit of some unattainable digital perfection. The limitations of analog gear, like the 4 tracks on a Portastudio, force you to be creative. They force you to commit to decisions and focus on the most important thing, the song itself. Let's also touch on something called latency. Even here in 2026, with our super-fast computers, there's still a tiny delay when you're recording digitally. It's the time it takes for the sound to go from your microphone into the computer, through the software, and back to your headphones. It might only be a few milliseconds, but your brain notices. Subconsciously, you start adjusting your performance to compensate for that delay, and it can throw off your natural rhythm and groove. When you record on an analog machine like a Tascam, the monitoring is instantaneous. It's a direct, real-time electrical signal. What you play is what you hear, exactly when you hear it. This creates a much more natural and intuitive connection between you and your instrument, allowing for a performance that truly flows. Finally, let's talk about character and color, or what audio engineers call harmonic interest. A perfect digital recording is designed to be transparent. It captures sound without adding anything to it. It's a clean window. But sometimes, what we want is a stained glass window. We want color. Every piece of vintage analog gear, whether it's my old realistic receiver, my Lab Series amplifier, or my trusty PV Decade Practice AMP, adds its own unique sonic signature. Specifically, they tend to add what are called even-order harmonics. It's what gives analog recordings that rich, warm, three-dimensional quality. In the digital world, engineers spend thousands of dollars on complex plugins that are designed to simulate the very thing that this old, inexpensive hardware does naturally, just by being turned on. So, where does that leave us? Should we throw our computers in the trash and go full-on retro? Not necessarily. I used my Tascam Porta O2 for the initial recording, the foundation. I capture the raw performance, the warmth of the tape, the natural compression, and all those beautiful harmonic overtones from my analog gear. I embrace the limitations to keep my creativity focused. Then, once I have that soulful, living, breathing performance captured on tape, I transfer it into a digital environment like Audacity or Ardor. At that point, the computer is no longer the creative tool. It's simply a container. It becomes a tool for final arrangement, a light polish, and easy distribution. This way, you get the absolute best of both worlds. You're bypassing all the suck of the digital process, the option paralysis, the visual dominance, the clinical coldness, and you're harnessing the soul, the warmth, and the character of analog. You get the sonic texture of the 1970s with the convenience and global reach of 2026. It is about using technology thoughtfully, not just because it's new, but because it serves the music. So next time you feel like your digital recordings are lacking that certain something, maybe don't look for another plugin. Maybe look for an old tape machine. You might be surprised by the magic you find. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more sonic adventures.